Hi, and welcome to Now TV. As promised, I said I would eventually read some parts of You've Got Mail Too, sample material of what I've written. Hoping to keep it that funny all the way through, and I'm hoping to hear back from Meg, or even Tom, to see what they think of what is here. 6,809 words, written by yours truly. So, without any further ado, I will begin. Introduction. Joe Fox received 2 books of poetry from an independent Canadian writer, and after reading both books and being very impressed by her work, thought the idea of going to meet with her in person might be something he should like to do, because he really liked her work and how she drew the reader in to make them feel what it's like to actually be there at the place and time in her pieces. He also thought it would be a good way to check out his Canadian competitions, to see what their large bookstores look like and whether they offer coffee and poetry readings like his does in New York. He looked forward to hearing this young woman reading her work for listeners who stop into his poetry corner, but thought for safe measure, because she was an independent writer, that meeting with her first would be a good idea. It said on the back of the books that there was 3 books in the set, but he only received 2, so the third one, Joe assumed, wasn't in print yet. With that thought, maybe he could be the one to back the publishing of her third one. He looked to be the size of something Fox Books could handle supporting. This could only help with her transition of coming to America much easier and a lot more comfortable financially. Poetry, though well liked and loved by readers, isn't easy to make a living at writing. He believed this young lady had what it took, however, to do it. There's a lot more to this story than what has been written in the paragraph above, but I will leave what's to come in the story to your imagination, and look forward to reader response from everyone who one day gets the pleasure of reading through all the pages. I look forward to working on the screenplay with Meg Ryan. Her polishing touches and sense of humor will only make this completed project an even better work of art. Oh yeah, I guess I should say I would of course enjoy working with Tom Hanks as well. You've Got Mail Too, opening scene. Joe chatting with Kathleen, checking his email and other work for the office. Joe Fox. How would you like to go on a vacation, Kathleen? Kathleen replies, okay, where? Joe Fox says, Vancouver. Kathleen says, this isn't some kind of business trip like vacation, is it? Joe says, nope. Joe says, I'm just tired of the hustle and bustle of New York. I need a change of scenery and thought it would be a very good way for us to move our relationship forward to the next level. I mean, assuming there is a next level between us, Kathleen. Kathleen says, good point. I hadn't really taken much time to think about it. Us, I mean. I've just been enjoying the now time with each other. A vacation would be a good way for us to move our relationship to the next level, which I believe we are both clearly in agreement is something we're interested in, since we are obviously not sick to death of each other. And Joe says, now worried. You don't think this vacation will make us sick of one another, do you? I mean, spending so much time together in such a short period of time? I can't help myself. I really just am enjoying myself and the time we spend together. Kathleen says, me too, Joe. Me too. Joe says, okay then, so it's settled. We are going to go on this vacation together, and we are going to have a wonderful time. Kathleen says, agreed. Wait a minute, Joe writes. What? What about Brinkley? Kathleen says. Joe says, well, we will just bring him with us. That is okay with you, isn't it? Kathleen, of course it is, silly. Come on, Joe. I mean, did you really even have to ask? It's Brinkley. He's like the perfect dog. The wonderfully behaved best friend any dog owner should be so lucky to have. Joe says, okay, I was just checking. Better be safe than sorry. I'd hate to be at the airport and meeting up with you and have you see the dog cage being loaded and you turn to me and say, what's Brinkley doing here? Kathleen, well now, Joe, I'd never do a thing like that. You should know me well enough by now. Joe says, I do. I know you love Brinkley, but like I said, I was just checking. Joe, okay then. After I get back from my walk with Brinkley this morning, I will start comparing prices and get back to you, and we can go from there. Kathleen says, okay, Joe, sounds good. I'm going to go take my shower. I'll chat with you later. Joe says, later, Kathleen. End first scene. A few days later, Joe says, so, is the itinerary finished, Kathleen? Kathleen says, I just finished it. Joe says, do you think we'll have enough time to get everything on the list done, dear? Kathleen says, yes, Joe. I believe if our trip goes according to plan, we should get everything we want done while we are there. You know, even if we didn't get everything done, that's what coming back again another time could be for. Joe says, "Are you saying that you think you will enjoy this trip so much that you will want to return again for another one down the road?" Kathleen says, "Why, it's a city of romance, Joe. Honestly, sometimes I wonder about you. Why do you think 30 million people visit there each year?" Joe says, "Okay, sorry for asking. With that said, what are we doing while we're there?" Kathleen says, "Boy, you sure have a terrible memory. I mean, don't you remember anything you were yelling out at me from the bathroom when you were getting dressed for the day yesterday? Honestly, Joe, I think you need to start eating more carrots and taking, those memory-enhancing vitamins or something." This, of course, is just a ruse for Joe to distract and keep Kathleen's focus in another direction from one of his true purposes for wanting to take this trip. Itinerary. Kathleen reads off the list. Vancouver Trolley, Robson Boulevard Walk, Footlong Hot Dogs, Gelati, SkyTrain, the full run for both trains. Tour bus, SeaWorld, Science World. Joe says, "Isn't that for children?" Kathleen, "Oh, for heaven's sake, I'm not even going to answer that. It's Science World." Joe says, "Good point. Next." She continues, "Then we'll go on boat rides. We will go to Granville Island, North Vancouver, and Victoria Island. Then we'll go tandem bike riding, walking Wish Bay and Stanley Park. Next we'll see Vancouver Aquarium and other places. Oh, by the way, we don't necessarily have to do everything on the list in the order I have written it down." Joe says, "Thanks for clearing that up." Kathleen says, "No problem. Now, I also have seeing Metrotown, IMAX, movie, and crab fishing on the list." Joe says, "Yummy. Crab fishing. Let's do that right away. It definitely should be the first thing on our list." He smiles, picturing melted butter and crab meat. Kathleen, "Really, Joe, sometimes." Smiling. End scene. A few days later, day leaving airport. Joe says, "Okay, Kathleen, you ready?" He asks her over the phone. Kathleen says, "Almost, Joe. I'll phone you back when I'm ready for you to come pick me up." Joe says, "Okay, dear. I'll be right by the phone waiting." Kathleen says, "Why don't you go walk Brinkley? It will do your body some good before that airplane ride." Joe says, "Thanks for the suggested idea. I'll think about it." "Okay," Kathleen says. "Talk to you again soon." End of phone call. Joe took Brinkley for a walk after staring at the phone for 3 minutes, realizing she wasn't going to call him back that fast. Returning from the walk, coming in the door, Joe could hear the phone ringing. "Ring, ring! Ring, ring!" Joe took the leash off Brinkley's collar and quickly went for the phone. Joe says, "Hello?" Kathleen says, "Okay, I'm ready now, Joe. How was the walk?" Joe says, "Great. But how did you know I really went?" Kathleen says, "Just call it woman's intuition." Switching thoughts to what he was thinking about while walking Brinkley, Joe says, "Kathleen, when do I give him the doggy tranquilizer?" Kathleen says, "What does the box say?" "Didn't the airline give you instructions? I mean, they don't want him waking up during the flight. Maybe we should wait till we get there." Joe says, "Just a minute, I'll go get the box." He puts the phone down, goes to the hallway where the box is sitting on the table, grabs it, and takes it back to the phone. He continues, "It says here that it takes about 30 minutes to take effect and should last 3 to 4 hours. I don't remember whether the airline lady told me to give it to him before leaving home or at the airport." Kathleen says, "I think we should wait till we get there. I mean, it's not like our flight leaves 45 minutes after we get there or something, Joe. We don't need it wearing off before we get to Vancouver." Joe says, "Okay, Kathleen, I'll trust your advice. Now comes the fun part, getting Brinkley in the car. The driver put my stuff in the car earlier, so it's only the last minute little things, the dog and me. I will send for the driver, and we'll be on our way to come and pick you up." Kathleen says, "Okay, Joe, I'll be here waiting for you guys." "Okay, see you soon," Joe says. End of second call. Ooh, 1 minute left. Maybe I should end it there for the night. So that's like the first 10-minute segments of You've Got Mail too. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in, and maybe I'll do another 10-minute segment tomorrow or a couple of days from now. Cheers. Jennifer Cooley, Now TV, Canada.